So it's all like pretty great stuff. Like I've got all the tools that Whoops, the big jets have, and I've got it in a small airplane. You know, it costs a fair amount for this level of avionics, but there's a lot going on here. I've got a lot of data at my fingertips, and it's pretty awesome. Here we are at my favorite AMO in Ontario, Brant Aero. It's also where I get my airplane serviced, and I'm with Josh Pegg, the head of
Avionics Sales.
Avionics Sales, of course. That's what I bought. I bought a bunch of avionics off this guy. I remember that.
Yes.
Just wanted to have a little debrief about my recent panel installation, the upgrade we did for my Skymaster.
Sure.
Maybe you can just tell me a little bit about all the fancy stuff that I had put in there.
Sure. Yeah, so we took the aircraft from almost a stock panel, actually, minus a few existing upgrades. And this iteration of the installation, you've been here once before, so you had an existing Avidyne IFD 440, which is a WAS certified IFR GPS navcom. Very capable unit, but the screen size is a little small.
Yeah, I always found the screen size hard, especially with instrument approaches and stuff, to get all the information on that little screen. It was like, and I mean, I hate to admit it, we're all getting older. The older I get, it seems like the smaller the data on the screen was getting.
Yeah. So we took that and we moved it to the number 2 position, and we installed its big brother, the Avidyne IFD 540. Same concept, an IFR certified WAS GPS navcom with a much bigger screen, much more easy to see screen, I guess. The functionality is exactly the same, with the exception of being able to have charts on the screen, except because the screen size will allow it. And then we complemented both of those systems with the Aspen EFD 1000 Max, which is a primary flight display that sits in your panel and supplements your attitude indicator and your HSI. And because of the nature of the primary flight display, it does allow us to remove other key components in the panel that you maybe had to retain in the past, but we're able to clean that up that way. In that process, we also redesigned your panel, which is something we can offer here. Truly custom design panel, able to move instruments away that maybe you didn't want anymore, or something that was in the wrong position into more obvious field of view for you. And then the laser engraving option that we have here to put those placards on the panel that are, not stickers and don't peel off. And then the icing on the cake, replaced your audio panel with a Garmin GMA 345, which is a full stereo audio panel that has intelligent squelch systems in it, so no more needing to tweak the knobs to make sure that the squelch is set right. Everything works perfectly, and it offers 3D audio, which is even better feature to split the audio from one headset to another.
I love it, particularly the Aspen. It's a small piece of glass, like it's a glass panel, but it's not a mega glass panel. For the size of it, I just cannot believe how much data is represented on that little panel and how it sort of changes its representation depending on what I'm doing and how I have it set up, whether it's the synthetic vision or I just strip it back to its bare bones HSI attitude indicator configuration. I usually do that for landing, so I can have it really simple. I just love the way it interacts with the Avidyne. Like all the data from the Avidyne's there. All of a sudden I know exactly which way the winds are blowing and how fast they're blowing at altitude. Sounds dumb, but for me as still a relatively new pilot, like it's just so great to just go, the winds are at this speed from this direction. So many things about it I just love.
Yeah, it's a really intuitive piece of equipment. It's a really great tool, and in the general aviation world, we've noticed a lot more in the last even 5 or 10 years. All of this fancy equipment that you would expect to see in maybe commercial aircraft or corporate aircraft filter their way down into general aviation aircraft to be able to give you that kind of information. In the aviation industry, as you know, we talk about situational awareness and cockpit management, and this Aspen provides all of that in one particular component without you having to use your eyes to scan all over the airplane like you used to have to do. So it's really, really advantageous to have all that data. And I mean, I don't think it's silly at all. The ability to have wind information, to be able to tell your crosswind component and all those other things when you're flying in an IFR environment, or even a VFR one, just creates more additional safety, which is what we're all about, right? Make things more safe.
So as far as laying out the panel, like how did you must have had to take very careful measurements, or do you literally template it with paper or cardboard, or like how do you get it so perfect?
Yeah, so actually all of the above. So we start out with the basic templates. We remove the panels, the existing panels out of the aircraft if possible. In your aircraft we could. Take the measurements from there, design it on the computer, print it off in almost like a Bristol board cardboard, fit it to the panel and make notes and measurements to really fine tune the dimensions so that we really tighten up the panel so that you don't see those gaps between the glare shields or where it meets the lower sub panel. You really don't see those anymore. We really tune those out, and then we do one final cut in a hard plastic and fit that and make sure all the instruments and everything clear, because it's a clear plastic we can see in behind. So we make sure all the instruments are clearing everything if we have to tighten things up and it's really snug, and then we send it off for water cut. Yeah,
it's crazy, like the combination. It's almost like you guys are like fine cabinet makers and aircraft aviation, dealing with these amazing instruments, and like all of this stuff's got to come together perfectly. Like even when the plane was ripped apart, I almost felt like I needed to go see my therapist. Like seeing that it was just gutted, it felt like post-apocalyptic or something. Like I didn't think you'd ever get it back together again. And I've seen some of the other jobs you do here, and it's like it's 10 times more. It looks like the inside of the space shuttle when it's ripped apart. Like it's nuts.
Yeah, people don't really comprehend just how complex aircraft are and some of the things that go into it, and that is pretty standard fare for us. Surprisingly, every installation we do, the airplane is ripped apart roughly to that magnitude, every time, and try and put Humpty Dumpty back together again. It's definitely a skill set that is very specialized, and we're very lucky to have a lot of skilled people here to do that.
The autopilot integration with the Aspen is just incredible. I mean, we had it before with the IFD. It's even better now. It's smoother. It's just more precise. It's just great.
Yeah, that part speaks to Aspen's engineering team specifically. The ability to interface old existing avionics systems into this new technology is really, truly a challenge. And the fact that these manufacturers are able to do that and give us as installers the capability to go to our customers and our clients and say, oh, you have this autopilot or that autopilot or this navcom or this radio. Yes, we can absolutely interface with this new technology and it'll be just as seamless or better than what you had before. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what, I sort of made a conscious choice right from the start with the IFD, going with Avidyne, instead of going with the Garmins and I didn't, at the time I went with the IFD, I didn't really realize I was going down that row in the trail in the garden path or whatever the saying is. Like right from the start of me choosing a Skymaster over whatever other type of aircraft I might have chosen, I'm obviously seem to be attracted to the alternate version of aviation. Obviously Avidyne's not as big as Garmin, Aspen's not as big as Garmin. They're the littler players, but they seem to have a boutique audience in people like me who need to mix different systems together, stuff that doesn't necessarily normally talk to each other, and make it work in a cohesive aircraft, as opposed to just going in with $150,000 or more and plunking in a Garmin panel and a Garmin GFC 500 autopilot and whatever else.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. The smaller manufacturers of these products, the Aspens, the Avidynes, because of the nature of what they're up against, they've had to play nice in the sandbox, we shall call it. And so the interface between all of their systems, they all speak to each other about. They all know, how do I maximize capability for what I'm designing, for what you have, and how do you complement my system and vice versa. So in doing what you've done, in selecting the different manufacturers, you have created a very, very, very capable, very nice panel that maybe wouldn't have been as capable maybe if you had done the full Garmin package. Because...
Well, Garmin doesn't make an autopilot for me, for one thing.
Yes, that's right. That is a challenge. A 337 being a unique airframe, there are very few autopilots on the market for you. So you have to use what you have.
Thankfully, mine still works wonderfully well.
There. Again, compliment to the designers to think of how old those systems are and how well it works. Like it truly is a testament to the designers and engineering teams that built these systems back in the day, because your airplane is 40 years old, you said?
More than 40, 1977.
Right, 1977.
45,
and that's original equipment, right? That was built and installed at the factory, and it's still, to this day.
A 46-year-old computer flies my airplane. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
And a brand new computer talks to that computer to tell it what to do.
And gives you even more capability with the ability for it to fly GPS tracks on flight plans.
Totally.
Instead of just VORs.
I can fly a VNAV, like a vertical profile, like a VNAV into an approach, and it's bang on. It's awesome.
Yeah, avionics and upgrading your avionics in your aircraft has truly become a great investment in your aircraft. You know, with the advancement of the technology, right, and the ability to fly those GPS approaches now, and then have that new tech in your glass panel and your primary flight display now, be able to interface with all your existing avionics. The capabilities of your aircraft have just increased, right?
And the capabilities of me as a pilot has increased too. Again, I'm a relatively new pilot, six years in the Skymaster, 7 years total, 750 flight hours, IFR for 4 years, but I took 2 of those years pretty well off with COVID. I get in the plane now and I fly an IFR approach in IFR conditions, and I feel a lot more I feel comfortable with the information that I have presented to me, how it's presented, and the way the airplane flies now. It's a cohesive package. Before I was having to kind of piece it together, and it was just shorting out my brain. It was terrible, and now it's amazing.
Yeah, so lessen your workload by centralizing all the information into one position, one place, and it makes you a more confident pilot. And who doesn't want to be that, right? Who doesn't want to do that?
Totally.
I guess the nice part, I will call it the nice part about working in this business and being with Brant Aero for as long as I have, for 16 years now, our bread and butter are the 40-year-old airplanes. You know, if you look around our hangar now, everything in here is circa 1980 and earlier. You know, it's rare. Oh, sorry, I lied. I've got one that's a post 2000, 2 post 2000 aircraft that are in our hangar. Most of them are fairly old. So interfacing with those 40-year-old avionics systems, most of them are being removed, if I'm being honest, but the ones that do stay, the autopilots, maybe the really nice nav radios that are still in good shape and things of that nature, they all play nice with the new technology by design, because the manufacturers and us, we also understand that when you're talking to clients and customers, you know, and they spend X dollars on their airplane, they don't want to spend the amount they spent on the airplane or more on, you know, electronics in the airplane. So we have to find that happy medium with being able to do that. Now, when it comes to opening up a 40-year-old airplane and doing the work on the wiring, there are certainly challenges to be had, but we, as avionics installers and technicians, are very highly trained and specialize in that field alone. So for those that aren't aware, the aircraft maintenance engineer's license that I hold is specifically an engineering license for avionics. It's an E category license. So I spent time in school learning just the avionics. You know, that's how specialized and how highly trained you have to be to do this job.
You must spend a lot of time learning about new stuff too, because it's constantly changing.
Yeah, it's a constant training battle. I've like I said, I've been here 16 years. I don't think there's been a year where I haven't gone to some sort of training course or upgrade course to re-familiarize myself with either existing products or learn a new one that came out. I just did it today, actually. I sat in on a training webinar on a new product that's coming out, because it's always changing. This world is always different, and that's why I like it. I come in here, tomorrow I'll come in and it'll be something different. Yeah.
No, I loved it. I mean, I know you guys work on much bigger airplanes, certainly on avionics-wise around here most of the time. I've seen some giant projects, especially lately. It's insane, some of the stuff I've seen done here, avionics-wise and otherwise. But yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time and effort with my plane. You guys did a great job, and I'm so happy with it.
Well, we always like to hear that you're very happy with it. You know, we've been here over 50 years now. Been around for over 50 years, Brant Aero, and this is our bread and butter. That's what we do. We started as an avionics shop. We're still primarily an avionics shop with a huge maintenance component now, which was really nice. But yeah, this is what we live for. We love bringing the old aircraft in, giving them a facelift, and sending them back out to the client and just watching that wow factor, that jaw hit the floor when they sit in it for the first time and turn it on and realize every piece of information they have there now, they never thought they could have, right? Yeah. So it's great. I really like it.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Of course.
Appreciate the work.
Thank you.
So the stuff we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the new IFDs. So we have the IFD 440 down here, Got the IFD 540 up top, so two very capable GPS nav comms. Awesome units. I chose the Avidyne IFD product. Basically, it played nicer with the old Cessna autopilots. So the Garmin stuff, it tends to be, if you want to go with Garmin, you have to have everything Garmin. Garmin actually doesn't make an autopilot for the Cessna 337. 337, there's only two autopilots available: the native Cessna autopilots that come with the units, or the S-Tech autopilots. That's my understanding anyway at this time. Those are the only autopilots you can get. I have the old autopilot, the old analog autopilot, but it does talk to the IFD, which is great. So I do have the ability to have full VNAV. I can fly a full coupled WAS GPS approach. I can fly VNAV. I can fly an ILS, coupled ILS approach with this. It does a great job of it. We'll go up and we'll fly a quick approach with that. The other new thing that we had added with the panel was the Aspen PFD 1000 Pro Max that you see here. So this is basically my primary flight display now. All the analog instruments are now considered backup instruments. So I've got a attitude indicator, as you can see, but then there's a whole lot more data overlaid with this. There's an attitude indicator at the top, and then a full HSI at the bottom. But again, lots of stuff going on there. So we've got speed tapes on the left side. We've got our altitude tapes on the right side. We've got the ability to set minimums. I've got the ability to set altitude assignments. It's not coupled to the autopilot as far as setting an altitude, but I can set an altitude on the Aspen, and it'll squawk at me when I get to that altitude, so I'm less likely to blow through an altitude, which is really handy. There's just so much stuff. I mean, when we're flying, you'll see how much data is presented in this little package, and with the IFDs. The IFD talks to the Aspen really well. Those guys get along really well. Again, they're smaller avionics manufacturers, and they tend to play nice together. They're good at integrating with a lot of the old legacy avionics that comes with an airplane like this. The Ryan TCAD. Again, it's a great traffic advisory device. It enables me to see transponder traffic, so I have the ability to dial it in. I set the altitude, I set the altimeter setting in the Ryan TCAD, and then it will tell me when there's someone else, another transponder in that airspace, and it'll tell me where they are, what direction they are from me, what direction they're flying in, what altitude they're at, and it'll actually show up. We might see that in this flight. It'll show up on the map overlay on the IFD, which is incredible. The IFDs, these ones also have ADS-B out, which is required if I go down to the States, and it's also a real handy thing to have as far as safety and traffic awareness goes, so other people can see me. They have ADS-B out. As far as ADS-B in goes, I have the Garmin GDL52, which I haven't turned that on yet. GDL52 up here. So this gives me ADS-B in, which isn't as useful. It's useful for seeing other planes for sure. The Sirius XM is what I use it for mostly, and that gives me the ability to have full weather radar, full XM radar presented to me on the iPad in flight, which is an incredibly useful tool. That combined with our weather radar that we have down here, the old analog radar system, I have lots of ways to see what's going on in the clouds, what's inside those clouds that are maybe in front of us and we're thinking about flying through. So anyway, let's go for a quick flight and watch some of this stuff in action, see how it goes. We're just going to head down south, and then we're going to fly an approach back into Brantford and play with some of our fancy new tools. So here we go.
I think they're doing a little wine and cheese thing by the sounds of it. I saw a poster in the thing, but I didn't get the date.
I don't think us tonight. Bit of a crosswind, but I don't mind. I'll take it. But they're still fueling at this time of night.
Oh, there's no plane back there.
Brantford traffic, Skymaster, Charlie Golf, Romeo Bravo. Romeo is lining up runway 05 for departure to the south. Alright, lights, camera, action items, seatbelts tight.
Yep. I don't see any other traffic.
Oh. Oh, let me bring up the synthetic vision view for takeoff because it's pretty cool looking. Alright, so you look at that. It shows us a little bit off. So here we have one of the synthetic vision views. We'll see if it lines up a little bit better for actual takeoff. So if you were in low IFR situation, you want to make sure you run runway 05. Normally you can look out the window and see the runway numbers. Here you can look on your Aspen PFD 1000 Pro Max and see the numbers. All right, so you all set, Matt?
All set. Might get better when you get airborne.
Yeah, it might. I'm not seeing the light there. Oh, it's closing.
You just heard it.
Yeah, but the light's not on. Oh, there we go. Just needed to turn it. Okay. All right, here we go. Brantford traffic, Skymaster Golf Romeo Bravo. Romeo's rolling, runway 05, Brantford. All right, slight crosswind input. All right, gauges are good. Airspeed is alive, seeing it in 2 places. 60 knots. 70 knots. Getting light. And positive rate. And gears going up. That's pretty cool. Gears up and locked, and climb power.
I see gear up.
24, 26. Still hot.
And your cross hatching's back.
Yeah, that they just say is a normal thing. And flaps up above 500 feet. So one of the things I love about the Aspen PFD Pro Max, let's just say it was nighttime, I lost an engine or I lost both engines or whatever, I needed to land somewhere, I can't see what's below me. Right now I see that I'm flying over a river. There's the Grand River down below us. I can actually see with the synthetic vision on the PFD Pro Max, I can see that there's a river. I could see mountains. I can see things below me synthetically with this device, which I think is pretty darn cool. Someone at 1,100 feet, not talking.
Above us.
Brantford traffic, Skymaster Golf Romeo Bravo. Romeo just departed runway 05 with a left turnout heading south.
Right turnout.
Sorry, right turnout heading south. All right, so I'm going to engage the autopilot. Autopilot's on in heading mode.
We literally just flew over my dad's place.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
It's going to climb to 2,000 feet. So we've got the autopilot basically slave to the heading. So the heading information is coming out of the Aspen right now. We've got it set to south. Let's put it on south. That's the direction we want to go. So the autopilot will turn to south. Basically however I turn this knob here, that will turn the airplane. I'm not turning that yoke. That's the autopilot in heading mode, slave to our heading, sending us south, and we're still climbing because I haven't set the altitude lock yet. Climbing to 2,500 feet, so I've set the altitude up there. Again, it's not slave to the autopilot. So the autopilot, I'm manually climbing with the autopilot, but it'll tell me when I'm getting close, and it'll remind me. So that says it up here. You'll hear it in a second.
So
yeah.
Looking at the Aspen, your course is 181, and then your track is 186. So that tells me, is that actually what our track is? And that's what our desired heading is?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you corrected...
They're pretty close.
Yeah, but like if you corrected the other way, then we could get a track of due south.
Yeah. I've set the Aspen to due south. It should be navigating me to due south.
Oh, so it should be factoring in.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Yeah. I've asked for 180, and I don't think there's really any wind right now because it's flying 180. the required, the desired track and the set track are the same, right?
Okay.
Altitude.
See, it tells me the altitude. I'm coming up on 2,500 feet. So when I'm getting close to my desired altitude that I've preset, it'll start squawking at me and remind me that I need to set the altitude on my autopilot if I want to stay at 2,500 feet, which I just did. Brant area traffic, Skymaster Golf Romeo Bravo Romeo is currently 2,500 feet over Waterford, heading south down to Lake Erie. So yeah, there's basically different synthetic vision modes on here that I can set. There's synthetic vision 1, synthetic vision 2, which just gives me an overlay on the attitude indicator. There's this top-down view, so it kind of shows me the topography below me, shows me waypoints. It's getting that data off the Avidyne, so it's showing me rivers and it's showing me the edge. I'm seeing the edge of Lake Erie coming in there. The one that I really like
Bradford traffic Zulu
is
Foxtrot taxiing Alpha onto 054.
this one, kind of the full 3D, like I'm flying, like it's the view out the front of the airplane. I could be in complete clouds and I can see that I'm approaching the shore of Lake Erie. I can see that I'm over farmland. If I was over rivers, if I was over mountains, it would be showing me the relief of all of that, which is really pretty darn cool. And then when I don't want things cluttered, like when I come in for my approach, I basically clean all this up. I bring it back to just sort of bare bones, and in this mode, it kind of cleans up the whole display, gives me a little less information, makes it a little less cluttered, shows me what's going on. Outside air temperature, true air speed, 138 knots, ground speed, 138 knots. Normally it would be showing me wind. If I was a little higher, if I'd been in the air a little bit longer, it would be showing me wind speed and wind direction, which is a very valuable tool as well.
Maybe it only works above a certain altitude.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually why it's not working today. If we go back to the Avidyne for a minute, so if I want to start my approach into Brantford, I'm going to go direct to, I'm going to be in map view, I want to go direct to Brantford, so Charlie Yankee, oops, clear that. Direct to, Brantford's already up, but if it wasn't up, the Avidynes work together.
Juliet Foxtrot on the roll on 05.
So the bottom one turns into a little keyboard and it activates the top one. So Charlie Yankee Foxtrot Delta, return, activate direct to. And if I want direct to, then I just click over on the Avidyne. I go instead of GPS, instead of heading mode, I click GPS mode, and now we're slave to the navigator, and it's going to fly us back towards Brantford Airport. If I click here, it shows me that Brantford's 19.3 nautical miles to the north of here, and we'll get there in 7 minutes.
Brantford traffic, Columbus, Quebec, 3,000 feet. We're 5 minutes north of field. Planning over our procedure. Runway 05.
That guy's pretty cool.
So that guy, he was coming in from the north, I think.
Yeah, he's 5 minutes north. We'll just give him a bit of time, and we'll just fart around down here a little more. This is good. It tells us how much fuel we have left based on the total fuel that we set. So we have to reset that when we fill it up. We set that to 148 gallons. And then that'll be a very accurate amount. It'll tell us how much fuel we have left in the aircraft, which is way more accurate than the analog gauges. Right now we've got, so the green is cylinder head temperatures, and I'm just going to open up the front cowl flaps a little bit. I like to keep them below 400. Green is cylinder head temperatures, so 6 cylinders on the front, 6 cylinders on the rear engine, and the white is exhaust gas temperatures. We do have an EGT, exhaust gas temperature probe on number 1 cylinder in the rear. That probe is starting to go. It's not the exhaust gas temperature that's a problem, it's the actual probe. That's why that's jumping up and down like that. This is also a much more accurate way of getting stuff like RPM, front and rear engine, manifold pressure, front and rear engine, voltage. So we're charging and we're at 29 volts. We're burning 9.5 gallons per hour on each engine, 9.5 on the front, between 9.4 and 9.5 on the front, 9.5 on the rear engine. Outside air temperature is 16.9 degrees. And then we've got our oil pressure here, which is again much more accurate than the pressure gauges over there. So a lot of data there.
Off your back, descended 2,500 for 2003, or 3 miles from the north of the field, planning over procedure 05.
What procedure? RNAV?
I don't know what he was doing. Was he doing the procedure?
He said some procedure.
I'm going to do the RNAV from that side, from, oh no, 05 is fine.
Brant for traffic, Zulu Juliet Foxtrot on a right turn southbound, 2,200, climbing 3,000.
Brantford area traffic, Skymaster Golf Romeo Bravo Romeo is just on the north shore of Lake Erie, just to the west of Dover, 2,500 feet. We're going to be heading back towards the airport shortly. All right, so let's fly the approach into Brantford. So if I want to do that, map view, direct to Brantford, it knows we want to go there. Brantford, enter, activate, direct to. So now it's drawn a straight line to the airport, and I want to go into GPS mode. So now the autopilot is slaved to the IFD 550, or IFD 540 rather, and it's navigating us straight to the airport. We're 23.3 nautical miles to the south of the airport, 2,500 feet. We're going to be there in 11 minutes. And now I want to decide what approach I want to fly. So let's actually bring that up on here. So the approach into Brantford, direct to
Brantford traffic, off your back, north field 2.3, fill over procedure runway 05.
Procedure, approach into Brantford, RNAV 05, and we're going to fly it via Alpog, add to route. So over here, I want to go procedure, into Brantford, RNAV 05, via Alpog, and I want to activate that approach. So now it's got us going, sorry about that, it's got us going direct to Alpog. I can zoom that out so we can see if that makes sense. Yeah, see, it's got us flying to Alpog and then inbound to Uvutu, and the minimum altitude Alpog and Uvutu is 2,500 feet. Sekal is the final approach fix, and then we'll be flying onwards to the runway, 2,500 feet. Now obviously we're not flying, we're just flying a practice approach, but we'll still brief the approach.
Brantford traffic, Golf Zulu Juliet Foxtrot departing the zone to the southeast. Currently 3 to the south of the town of Brantford. Heading southbound, 3,200, descending at 3,000.
She's at 3,000 feet?
3,200, yeah.
Brantford traffic, off your back, crossing the field, circuit altitude for mid-left, downwind 05.
Brantford traffic, Skymaster Golf Romeo Bravo Romeo is currently about 20 miles to the south, inbound for landing. We're going to fly the simulated RNAV approach for runway 05 via Alpog, and we'll be starting that approach in 4 minutes.
Brantford traffic, off your back, turn to mid-left, 05.
That guy's like a radio, FM, AM radio DJ, isn't he?
Cadillac Rick.
Okay, so we'll brief the approach. We're on 19.7. We're not talking to terminal because we're just flying a simulated approach, but we have let people at the field know what we're doing. Minimum altitude around here is 3,200 feet. We're currently at 2,500 feet, which is fine for the 25 nautical mile min-safe. We're going to be flying to Alpog, so our minimum altitude at Alpog is 2,400 feet. We'll come in at 2,500 feet. That's perfect. We'll be flying the initial approach fixed Alpog inbound to Uvutu, turning right at Uvutu into Sekal. Sekal's the final approach fix. We want to cross Sekal at 2,400 feet, and then we'll fly onwards to runway 05. Our minimum altitude, minimum descent altitude is 1,300 feet. So what we can do is we can set our minimums here. Oh, it looks like I flew this approach last time, so the minimums are set to 1,300 feet. It'll tell us it'll tell us when we're at our minimum. So the Aspen will start squawking when we get to our minimums, which is pretty great. So it's all like pretty great stuff. Like I've got all the tools that Whoops the big jets have, and I've got it in a small airplane. You know, it costs a fair amount for this level of avionics, but there's a lot going on here. I've got a lot of data at my fingertips, and it's pretty awesome. So we are about, it's always nice to know where we are to tell the people that aren't IFR where we are. We are 12 miles to the southwest at Alpog. Brant area traffic, Skymaster Charlie Golf Romeo Bravo Romeo is currently 12 to the southwest, 2,500 feet. We're inbound for landing. We're going to be flying the simulated RNAV approach for runway 05 via Alpog, and we're going to be starting that approach in a couple seconds here. We're expecting the field in 7 minutes for Romeo Bravo Romeo. All right, Alpog, we just crossed a waypoint. We had heard it say waypoint in our headset. It's adjusting our course slightly. The autopilot's doing all of this, which is pretty cool. We'll zoom in a little closer so we can see what's happening. We can keep an eye on it. Start slowing the boat down a little bit. We're not in any hurry. So we're 2,500 feet at Alpog. Everything checks out. 2,500 feet. So it's nice with the iPad because it gives us the plate overlaid on the map, or we can have just the plate and it shows our own ship overlaid on the plate. So we can, again, we've got lots of ways of cross-referencing what's going on here.
That guy's doing a touch and go.
Okay, good to know, thank you. The pre-landing checklist, crew brief, we know what we're doing. We're flying the RNAV 05. Loose articles are secure, seats and belts are tight. Approach navigators are selected and correct. Approach frequencies are set. We're just talking to Unicom. Autopilot is set as required. Fuel, tank to engine, and we have the appropriate amount of fuel. We got lots of fuel to do the approach and a missed approach if need be. Master, alt, mags are good. PAL flaps, let's open them up so we don't forget if we have to fly a mist. Ice protections as required. Lights and strobes, flaps, we'll put them on in a little bit. You can hear the thrumming a little bit, so we'll just adjust our prop pitch a little bit. There we go. And we're coming up on Ovutu. So there we have our pre-landing checklist complete, although we'll be doing some more stuff. Coming up on Ovutu, and we're turning inbound. Brant area traffic, Skymaster Charlie Golf Romeo Bravo Romeo is flying the RNAV 05 approach via Ovutu, so we're basically on an 11-mile final for runway 05. We're expecting the field in 3.5 minutes.
And Brant traffic.
So the autopilot is turning us inbound.
Runway threshold runway 05 and depart for the circuit runway 05.
And the field's in sight. So now, once we get lined up on the final approach fix, I'm going to switch over to nav mode.
And Brant traffic, I'll back turn in all left downwind 05. We stabilize your power from a downwind.
Alright, so nav mode basically couples us to the VNAV profile. The autopilot, or the navigator, automatically switched over to LNAV plus V. That's what this approach is. And I'm now in nav mode on the autopilot. So that'll fly a coupled approach with, it'll do the vertical profile of the approach as well as the horizontal component of the approach. You can see here that the glide slope is live. This little diamond is showing me that I'm below the glide slope, so I'm flying into the glide slope. And this diamond here is showing me horizontally I am centered on the approach. So I'm flying perfectly centered on the approach, and that's all happening with the autopilot automatically. I'm gonna go flaps 1. Once we get to the final approach fix here at Sekkel, I'm gonna lower the gear. I'm gonna make sure I'm at an appropriate speed for that, which I'm already below the gear speed. Then I'm gonna drop the gear in. And we already, oh no, glide slope is live. You can see this diamond turn solid green now. That means the glide slope scale is now active. And we're still below the glide slope and we're coming in to the glide slope. So as soon as that diamond gets to the center there, it it's going to start the autopilot descending us down to the field, which is pretty friggin' cool for an airplane that was built in 1977. This autopilot is a computer from 1977 coupled to these modern avionics, and they all talk together, and they do an amazing job of flying a fully coupled approach into the airport.
Runway 05.
So there's definitely traffic in the circuit.
Yeah, I can always break it off and fly a circuit if need be.
Brant traffic off your back. Turn final 05, touch and go.
Okay, he's doing a touch and go. I think there's at least one other plane out there.
Brantford area traffic, Skymaster Golf Romeo Bravo Romeo is flying the simulated RNAV via 05. We're almost at the final approach fix Seckle, so we're on about a 6-mile final for 05 Brantford. So you can see the diamonds coming in here. So that means we're coming in on the glide slope. As soon as we hit the glide slope, if the autopilot's working correctly, it's going to start us descending. I'm also going to drop the gear. I'm going to drop the gear in right now. Gear's coming in. You'll hear a bit of clunking and clattering. So maybe if you can keep an eye out for traffic for me.
Will do. I see
Diamond's
gear.
almost centered. Gear. I got a green light. I see gear on that side. Great. Gear is good. So gumps, gas, undercarriage, mixture. Props will come in shortly. Switches and security. Let's put our lights on, and you can feel the airplane just pitch down. That's basically the autopilot adjusting. And we're starting our descent into the field.
Final approach.
I just heard someone say come in behind.
Yeah, I heard that. Brantford area traffic, Skymaster Golf Romeo Bravo Romeo is on a 5-mile final for runway 05 Brantford. Where's everybody else in the pattern right now?
Traffic.
Bravo Golf Zulu zone extended downwind. We'll come in behind you, Tom.
Okay, so you see me, you're good?
I don't see you yet, but I'll keep an eye out. I'm on small wind.
Alright, thanks, I appreciate that. That's so nice, people are so friendly. Like he's basically extending his downwind because he hears that we're on flying our simulated RNAV approach. That's what I love about these smaller fields. So look at this, diamond centered, diamond centered. Today's not an IFR day, obviously. I look out the window, I can see that I'm lined up perfectly with the runway. I'm on a perfect glide slope. I'm going to start slowing the boat down. Basically, we want to fly.
Traffic?
Yeah, gotcha.
That's Bravo Alpha Zulu,
Yeah.
I think.
Traffic.
We want to fly at around 110 knots. I'm actually a little bit slow, so I'm going to increase my speed just a little bit.
Traffic.
Traffic. Bravo Golf Zulu turning base behind the Skymaster on about a 3-mile base.
All right, we're descending to minimums, so
Traffic.
minimums are 1,300 feet. We're 1,900 feet for
Traffic.
1,300 feet. That means we've
Traffic.
got, what is that, 500 feet to go.
Traffic.
I'm going to go flaps 2.
Traffic.
I'm going to shut her up. That's the TCAD squawking at us. So we're right on our glide slope, all lined up. Things are looking great. Coming into our minimum, so we're 1,600 feet for 1,300 feet.
Be simulated friendship failure from the downwind. We'll be number 2.
Brantford area traffic, Golf Romeo Bravo Romeo is on a 1-mile final 05, full stop, Brantford.
And Brantford traffic, Bravo Golf Zulu's on the 2-mile final runway 05, number 2 for landing.
And
Approaching minimum.
hear that, approaching minimum, so we're 1380, so it's telling me we're at minimums. If I was in IFR, I look up, I see the runway, I'm like, okay, cool, I can land. I'm gonna click off the autopilot, and I'm gonna land the airplane. So one last gumps check, gas, undercarriage, mixture, props, and switches and security. Clear to land, 05, full stop, Brantford. We do have a slight wind from the south, from the right side there. So we want to be 100 knots over the fence. We're 107 knots, slow down a little bit. And flaps 3.
Brantford traffic, Alpha Papa Sierra.
I'm going to land a little long so I can get off the runway quicker. This guy behind me.
Missed approach.
Active runway. Brantford is runway 05. That's runway 05.
Center line.
Aircraft in the circuit. 05, Alpha Papa Sierra.
And weight on the wheels, flaps up.
That was smooth as butter, man.
Who was that guy? He said he knew me. He said, "Hey, Tom."
Brantford area traffic, Golf Romeo Bravo Romeo is clearly active.